Okay guys, you probably remember this ABUS lock and I showed a bypass I guess about 3 weeks ago, and now that I'm back home, I'm back from Africa, I guess it's time to open it up and take a look and see what makes this ABUS ZB vulnerable to the bypass. It works in a very similar fashion to the American combination. It looks very similar to it. You can see the ZB logo here instead of the master lock. And if you recall, we took a shim and we simply put the shim on the right side of the third wheel and we were able to bypass. It doesn't seem to work anywhere else, and in fact I've had several people write in and say they've had exactly the same results. But let's go ahead and machine this thing open, do an autopsy, and see what makes this ABUS vulnerable to this bypass and why the Germans failed to design against it. Okay, so let me get this thing in the milling machine and we'll get that baby fired up. Okay guys, got just a little bit aggressive on the machining, but I wanted to open it up so that we could see everything that's on the inside of here. Very similar to the master lock, combination lock, with a couple minor differences. First of all, the Germans use this little knob thing here. It's attached to a spring which just sprung away, and that's what provides the spring pressure onto the locking arm. You can see the locking arm is very similar, except the German one it looks like steel, and the master lock one, of course, is some kind of cast aluminum or something like that. There's another little peg here that makes sure that this remains the pivot arm, so everything will rock back and forth like this along this axis, and that's all this little peg here is for. So let me get that dude out of there. Okay, if you look closely, you can see I've machined it away so you can see the locking pawls. I've machined a little bit of them away. That was not on purpose, but that's just the way it happens sometimes. And those are pressed into the grooves on the shackle on both sides, and then the locking arm itself squeezes in between them, and that's what keeps them from compressing, of course, and opening the lock. So the way to open this lock, of course, is to raise this little pawl out of the way and allow those two locking pawls to retract beneath it. Okay, so how did it work? Well, it worked exactly along the same principles as the master lock. What we did, I found only one place, and that was along the third wheel. I was able to slide it in, but it looks like if you can find room, you can probably shim this exactly the same way we do the master lock. I simply slid the shim in there. Now the Germans have put anti-shim barriers in there, so you have to bend. I know it's very difficult to see, but just bend the tip of your shim just a little bit to the right or to the left. And the way I do it, you just stick it in a little bit, and then you just angle it away, and that would bend it perfectly. And then of course that'll allow it to bypass that anti-shim shield. Once it reaches in there, you can see, I hope you can, let me back this up just a hair so I can hold it up closer and we can get it to focus for us. And of course, as we move that shim up and down, it works precisely the way that the master lock does. Now of course, if the spring were there and that pivot pin were there, it would be rocking along that axis, and then that would, of course, let me pull the pick out here and pick up a pair of tweezers. I think I can show you a little bit better. If we were to be able to lift that up, you can see when we pry it, the pawl, the locking arm raises from the area in between the two pawls, and when we do that, it will open. Nothing to it. The only advantage here, the quality of the machine work is much better, and of course in the German lock there's about 3,000 more parts than there are in the master lock. It looks like the combination changing mechanism is almost identical, but because they were much more careful than master lock when they machined this base plate, it's very, very difficult to get your shim in there. As I said, the only place I could get it in was on the right side of the third wheel. So if you get yourself a very thin shim, I think this is about 12 thousandths. This is a Peterson, but they're all the same. It may go in the first one, it may go in the second one, but if you go on the first one, you're going to have to go onto the right side of the wheel. And if you go into the fourth one, the last one, you're going to have to go on the left side of the wheel, because if you push it on the right, there's no way to unlock the mechanism. Same with the first one. If you go to the left, there's nothing to unlock. So it has to be literally between the wheels in order to reach in there and pivot that locking arm and remove that locking arm from between the pawls and allow yourself to get it open. I know this was a long, convoluted description, but I had a good time machining this open, and I just wanted to take some time and explain the locking mechanism and how you can defeat the ABUS ZB. Anyway, thanks for your time. Everybody stay safe and stay legal.